So if I were to show you this image, would you believe me if I told you that this was the result of an actual divorce? Well, given the internet, you probably would, but this image has spread the story attached to it so far to the point that even those outside the fandom were made aware of the divorce that created these images. So, who got divorced for this to happen, you may ask? Well, that would be two somewhat infamous figures in the fandom, Peacewolf and Foxglove. Two people who have garnered scrutiny in the fandom due to their personal beliefs, whether it be beliefs attached to Christianity or just racism. That's to say that those peeking in probably wouldn't be aware of the amount of backstory attached to these individuals, that pile near tripling in size given who Peacewolf would confide herself in as things fell apart with her now ex-husband. So in this video, I'll be providing you with that backstory, a breakdown of how a couple's quarrel culminated into this image. The earliest possible signs of this ordeal would be found in the background of Free-for-All in 2022. Free-for-All is an anthro convention that many in the fandom know for either the specific type of attendees that took to the forefront, or as the convention that many expected to go horribly south, only for it to conclude with a more lackluster reception than expected. But regardless of the convention's reputation, it managed to make it to the final day without anything going too heinous, as long as you don't pay any mind to the charity. The ball pit carried the convention is what I want to believe, although I think it's fair to say that this convention wouldn't be possible without the organization of Peacewolf. Peacewolf holds a reputation as a Christian artist and fursuit maker who founded the AWU Association in 2020, only to organize the convention we know them for now 2 years later. Given her previous experience among the staff of Tales and Tornadoes FurCon in Oklahoma, a reasonably organized convention wasn't anything out of the ordinary, 207 attendees being the final tally of the event. For those interested in what this convention consisted of, it's been covered in a previous video of mine that you can go watch to get a gist of it. But the reason I'm starting with Free-for-All is that this is where it's believed that the seeds of the Peacewolf polycule would first begin to take root. You see, in the lengthy document from Peacewolf that we will be reading through later, Peacewolf would speak on how days before the convention, she received leaked screenshots pointing towards her husband Foxglove looking to cheat on her with another woman. This had brought an abundance of emotional stress to Peacewolf as the convention was carried out. Emotional stress that she would confide with Jasonafex Kabscorner during the convention, something that posed a possible influence during the closing ceremonies, where Peacewolf would announce the guests of honor for FFA's upcoming year.
People I've ever met. Their enthusiasm and dedication to helping make this event a success has truly been amazing, and it's with great honor and pleasure that I would like to welcome to the stage your Free-for-All 2023 guests of honor, Kabs and Jasonafex!
Wow, what a lead up. How's it going, Tulsa, Oklahoma? I'll tell you one thing, I've been to a lot of different conventions over the years, almost up to a decade now, and I definitely have to say, this Free-for-All has been one of the best weekends I've ever had in the community. I love everyone I've met this weekend. I love the States, I love America, I'm Australian myself. It's been amazing getting to do all these different conventions over the years. And I'm absolutely pleasured and delighted. I'm honored to be able to be directly involved with the production of a convention, to participate, to contribute. One thing I've always wanted to do before I wrapped up my career in the community is to give back, to show what I've accomplished, to share that back with you guys, to hang out with you guys, have fun, have a great time, have a great weekend. I hope to do it again next year. It's gonna be great. No pressure.
Yeah, man, how do I top that? Good Lord. I'm so excited to come back next I got calmed down. But, yeah, no, that's pretty much all I gotta say. I can't top that, but...
We are very, very grateful. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you guys again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Free for all!
Now, as I said before, Free-for-All didn't exactly lure in a crowd of the most decent people. Between inflated conservatives, the cub porn indulging leader of the furry raiders, as well as the furry equivalent of Shane Dawson, you can assume that those putting themselves at the front and center at this con probably weren't the best people. This might have had something to do with the convention's constant rallying against cancel culture, even to the point of their #uncancelable tagline. So, what's the deal with Jasonafex and Kabscorner's history? Well, while they've left a pretty sizable mark on the fandom, arguably the most notable being their visual novel Amoris, they managed to garner quite a bit of scrutiny over the past few years. With the amount of time these two have spent in the fandom, many have their reasons as to why they dislike the two, but of the more damning would be Jasonafex allegedly grooming Kabscorner, at one point even having her provide the vocals for a furry porn animation when he was 20 and she was 16. And although this would just barely be legal, with 16 being the age of consent in both Canada where Kabscorner was and Australia where Jason was, many on the internet saw a problem with Jason encouraging a minor to both draw and voice furry porn. This would only be compounded as the two became much more toxic personalities, both on and offline, such as the time when the two would begin to berate a furry artist by the name of BluCloudy, as he would provide the two a place to stay, things hitting a boiling point however when BluCloudy would ask that the two lend a hand in paying rent. These events have been gone through in much more detail within this upload from Lanza. If you want to dive deeper into that rabbit hole, this would be the video to do it with. But with that brief summary of the two's less desirable actions, it would be safe to say that Peacewolf leaving a marriage she deemed restrictive to then go into a polyamorous relationship with Jason and Kabscorner sounds pretty fucking insane on paper, but we'll get to that. For now, how did we even get to the point of Foxglove and Peacewolf divorcing in the first place? As I've alluded to before, one of the supposed reasons behind the couple's separation was Foxglove being unfaithful to his wife. Foxglove allegedly cheating on Peacewolf for months before this would all hit the public. Logs of Foxglove sexting another woman dating back to even before Peace would meet Jason and Kabscorner. While there isn't anything publicly available to prove this cheating occurred, it can be inferred that it did happen given these were the events Jason was told, as well as it lining up with the vent-like post from Fox that he would leave on his Gab account following the initial separation. Primarily the one where he would ask, why is it that when a husband cheats, he is a selfish pig and ought to go back and care for his wife, but when a wife cheats, it's her personal choice, and her husband needs to get over it and move on, and wanting his own wife back makes him a creep. So let's assume that did happen, as it would explain a tweet that would come from Peacewolf later on in the timeline. So with Fox cheating on Peace, there would be an expected schism in their marriage. A worrying schism as the two were in the process of adopting a child at the time, an adopted child that we would rarely see mentioned going forward, to the point that many were confused as to whether or not they actually completed the adoption process or not. And while it would be elaborated on later in the following year, at the time, the public was under the impression that the two had adopted a child. A tweet from Foxglove showing him vent about Peace leaving him and their adopted child. But as you can already assume, this schism would lead to the two abruptly separating in November 2022, Peacewolf taking it upon herself to ditch her and Foxglove's shared home in Oklahoma, to elope to Canada and spend time away from him with Jason and Kabscorner. Peacewolf would leave her ex-husband behind without a word. Without spoken word, at least. According to Foxglove, there was no warning. She never expressed that she wanted to leave, just left some art for me to find when I got home to an empty house, bragging about how they were fucking while I was away. In the attachments, we can see two whiteboard drawings, one with Peacewolf Sona walking towards a Canadian flag, and another where she's in the embrace of Jason and Kabir's characters, accompanied by a tally of what I can only assume is how many times the two fucked his wife under their roof. Subtle. This wouldn't be the end of the art either. On Twitter, we would see Peacewolf tweeting out about this newfound freedom she had now that she wasn't being chained down by her marriage. This wouldn't go without opposition, however. That opposition came from users who found issues with a Christian woman abandoning her family to be in a polycule, let alone the people involved in that polycule. These tweets would hint at what info was to come, albeit in a somewhat vague manner. Like this tweet where Peacewolf would allude to Foxglove's cheating being a factor as to why she left to be with these two, the two which she was allegedly banging with behind his back even before deserting him. At least that's what most thought at the time. There are no good people in this story if you couldn't already tell. But the importance of these tweets wouldn't come until the start of December 2022, when a free-for-all staff meeting would be leaked in its entirety. Something to note in this meeting would be that Foxglove was removed from the board of directors. Peacewolf would say that this was because he had been found charging personal purchases on the company's debit card.
On the 24th of October, not more than 3 days later, there was an unauthorized charge on her bank account from Fox's debit card for the company, and he confessed to spending money for non-related purposes to Awu. So at that point, we then called the bank and deactivated his card, and we got a refund for the expenditure.
But given the timing of this, I can't help but feel this polycule had something to do with it. I mean, this call is said to have happened on the 19th of November, a little over a week before we would see Peacewolf rejoicing about their separation.
We're gonna go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, which a lot of you are already aware of, but as a lot of you know, Foxglove is no longer on the board of directors due to some things that have happened recently. And if I can get serious for a moment, I will go ahead and address those. On October 21st, our two guests of honors were removed from the Discord server in Awu by Fox. And it was without letting anybody know. When we make decisions to remove people from Awu, anybody, it's pretty much always a discussion with the board of directors. So for him to remove two associates, our guests of honor, for heaven's sake, even, was a pretty big deal. So there was that.
But regardless of if the two events overlap with one another, this would create a fair amount of infighting and drop support for the convention. But honestly, given that support does consist of a group led by a cub porn condoner, I say let them fight. What's worse that could happen, you know? Nothing substantial really seemed to come from this fallout in the following months. Any conflict between the groups would presumably be done behind closed doors or separated from the convention itself, as the next update concerning this wouldn't come until halfway through June of 2023. On June 16th, Peacewolf would publish a tweet that resulted in this story spreading outside of the fandom, to the point that even commentary channels on YouTube outside of the fandom would talk about this. Of course, I'm referring to this infamous 5-page document that mostly spread due to the artwork that came along with it. Titled "A Fox and His Lily," Peacewolf would tell her side of the story concerning her relationship with Foxglove, a side that I feel can only be summarized properly by reading through it in its entirety. So that's what I will do now. Although it should be kept in mind that this article isn't accompanied by any screenshot or tangible evidence to accompany the claims Peacewolf makes here, leaving this as something that I will be presenting here with a healthy serving of salt. That being said, hello, my name is Nicole, aka Peacewolf. I'm an artist and concher within the furry fandom. In the age of the internet, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. Now that myself and my ex-husband Foxglove are legally divorced, I feel that the time has come for me to share my side of the story, to allow myself a voice and be heard after almost a year of gossip and rumors why our relationship soured and ultimately failed. I found myself in my very first online relationship at the age of 17. I had no identity to call my own and did not feel fulfilled in regards to the love and attention I was getting from my parents growing up. This void I was feeling compounded over years. Desperate, I rushed into an online relationship with the first person that gave me the attention I craved. After 3 years of mostly online dating, I married in 2017 at the age of 21. I learned that Fox had a mold for the perfect wife planned out before we met and did everything in his power to groom me into it. He had a fictional relationship of an illustrated woman named Lily, who was always pregnant, birthing children for him, all of which have already been named, does not work, is subordinate, and unquestioning. Lily became my pet name, and deviations from the fiction were quickly scolded. I realized I was not loved for who I was, but was conditional based on the role I could play in a fantasy. Anytime I would engage in interest for myself, drawing, playing musical instruments, crafting, instead of the things his Lily would be doing, he would get upset and complain. If I spent time with friends that did not play into his fiction, he would complain. Feeling stifled, I began to shut down emotionally, just to lessen the guilt and shame of falling short of his vision. There were whispers from concerned friends and family over the years, people telling me that Fox was not good for me. I was too naive to ever listen, in denial that they just didn't understand, and that they were judging Fox unfairly. But the truth is, they saw him for what he really was, a narcissist preying on the inexperience of a sheltered girl. Despite the loving front he would put on in public, behind closed doors I was nothing more than a groomed trophy wife. All affection such as kissing stopped abruptly with marriage, which is where the fetishes came out. 3 days before Free For All July 2022, the convention in which I am the con chair, I received multiple leaked screenshots anonymously from concerned staff that Fox, my husband at the time, was fooling around and planned to have sex with another female member of staff, who was one of my close friends, who also happened to be our roommate that year for the hotel. The sexting dated back for months, including explicit photos and detailed descriptions of what they planned to get up to at the convention, with the thrill of doing it all behind my back while I was running it. While utterly devastated, I still had to work and be professional for the critical launching year. I briefly asked Fox if he was doing anything I should know about with another woman, and he said no. Not knowing I had been sent the receipts, I then showed him the evidence, and only at that point did he confess to what he had done. I requested that he not be in the hotel room alone with this woman at any point during the convention, to which he promised he wouldn't. I ended up catching them in the room together by themselves at least once during the convention. This was not the first time Fox had done things of a sexual nature with other people, discovering similar messages a year prior with other people. When confronting him then, he told me that it was my fault for not satisfying his sexual needs, and have been falling short of those expectations essentially since the day we got married. Fox would not move or open his eyes during sex. I tried to participate in his sexual role plays of pregnant Lily, but the fact that he could not do so successfully in real life led him to resent me. Our sex life ultimately settled on pegging him with a strap-on once a month to help him disassociate. The woman he decided to cheat with was married and had children of her own, satisfying his fetishes more than I ever could. It triggered a full-on panic attack. I could hardly breathe, crying for hours. I resolved to shove my feelings down as far as humanly possible, for the sake of being able to run free-for-all, and that's what I did to the best of my abilities. I didn't tell a single soul what was going on and tried to put on a front of stability, all the while crumbling on the inside. Only a couple of attendees had the relationship experience to see I was in serious pain, primarily Jasonafex and Kabscorner. attendees, and new friends I was slowly developing online at the time. I had not had the opportunity to spend any time with them during the convention as they were busy, but I did get to see them during the after party, and they were very supportive, friendly, and helped pack up the con despite not being on the staff. I really needed friends I could trust to talk to, so I invited them to stay in town one more day before they drove home, where I confided all the news to them. J and K helped me formulate a plan for the next month, helping both me and Fox read books like The 7 Levels of Intimacy, taking courses like the Big 5 Personality Test to generate a couples report to find the point of friction, and talking to both of us every day to check in and see if things are getting better, and professional couples counseling. Fox scored a 0% in empathy, meaning he had no desire to develop a capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing, and thus my needs were never validated. J and K encouraged me to take a weekend away from the hostile home environment I was in, and visit them in Canada. I learned quickly how broken my marriage really was, getting to spend time with genuine friends that offered the support structure I was missing in my life. Despite efforts, my relationship with Fox continued to deteriorate over the next few months. My focus and attention drifted further and further towards my friends, rather than working on our attraction to each other. Both Fox and I invited J and K to visit us at our home for 10 days, with plans to experiment near the end of the visit with Fox's full knowledge, consent, and encouragement as a cuckold that would not participate nor be invited behind closed doors. Fox helped prepare their arrival by drawing J/Virgins, their personas, on the guest bedroom whiteboard, partially nude and flirting with each other. The idea of being a cuckold was exciting for him. Everything went as planned without drama or hostility, everyone seemingly having a great time. However, Fox grew jealous of the attention I was receiving and started showing his true colors in the second week, as his efforts to flirt with Kabscorner were rejected. This included referring to her as Miss Kate and rushing to open doors with a "m'lady" to force a front of chivalry. Fox then began to do everything in his power to get attention, even negative attention. He alternated between extremes of crying on the floor in the master bedroom closet, curled up in the fetal position while holding a plushy version of Virgins that Jason gifted me, to baking cookies and delivering them to the guest room door while myself, Jason, and Kate were engaging intimately with each other. After witnessing domestic verbal abuse, Jason confronted Fox in the living room and put him in his place, while Cabs consoled me in the closet of my bedroom. The closet was my hiding place when Fox became frustrated with me. Fox never had a strong father figure, as his father was in prison during his upbringing for voyeurism towards minors. Formerly by another name, Fox legally changed his identity to his persona name, and moved states to further dissociate from his family's criminal history. We used my last name when we got married. I made up my mind quickly in that 10-day period that I no longer wanted to be married to Fox, and requested space from him in the last couple of days of their visit so I could start planning how to tell him that I wanted a divorce. Myself, J, and K went to visit one of my other close friends to get their opinions on how I should approach it. While at my friend's house, our phones began to blow up with messages that Fox was having a meltdown over his whiteboard drawing being erased and replaced by ones made by Cabs, and that I had begun to pack my things. He had been rapidly sending text messages to my friends and family that I was running away and being drugged and sex trafficked, that he was suicidal and was in serious danger of hurting himself and others. He then stole Kabscorner's belongings that were left in our house and put them in the back of a rental car and drove to my friend's home with his gun, parking the rental car behind J and K's to box them in. Fox had spun such a narrative of hysteria in one night that my friends broke into my home to check on him, had police summoned, my parents and many others all at once late into the night for a grand conspiracy to steamroll any attempt to take my ring off. It didn't work, however, as I still told him I wanted to divorce despite all the theatrics. Fox spent most of the night on his knees, groveling and emotionally compromised, with the open pistol on his hip. He later denied the threats of suicide, but the messages were kept. The entire ordeal was the most traumatic night of my life, as my parents were furious to be blindsided that I was unhappy. They, like many, assumed from the surface that we were a normal, healthy, married couple. Fox was crawling and vomiting on the floor and wearing my jewelry, necklace, bracelet, when my mother went with me to pick up more of my things, so that I could move into an apartment. I pawned the wedding ring he gave me that he would rub and obsess over. Don't forget I bought you this, for a little over $100 on the first day living by myself. Fox would stick to a narrative that I had no agency of my own and that I was stolen property for months, quickly adopting the facade of a wholesome Christian father figure and lying about having children. Fox had little to no interest in religious beliefs prior to the divorce. Fox insisted that if I did not give him a child of his own, that he would satisfy the craving by other means. We fostered a 17-year-old teenager for a few months leading up to the divorce. We never adopted her out of DHS custody and were under monthly review. She is now an adult and moved out to live with a healthier, loving family. I was not visited or contacted by her since we lived together for that brief period of time. Fox would send a plethora of letters and phone calls that gradually transitioned from denial to threats, all of which I kept for safekeeping. Some of these threats detailed how he would never stop, would pursue me until death, and that if I leave, I would pay dearly and he would ensure suffering would come my way. He would then tweet about how much he loved me seconds later on social media, playing a sociopathic game. Fox would spend the majority of his spare time conspiring and obsessing over my life, taking over my Peacewolf fan Discord, hacking into my Twitch account during live streams, harassing my friends, and turning the convention domain into ransomware, among other attacks at my reputation. This escalated to hopping the security fence at my apartment complex and stealing my car on my birthday, going as far as to break the wheel lock I had left on it, despite already having a vehicle of his own. This too got the attention of security, the apartment complex, and my parents, who stormed down to complain. Fox then promptly drove the car out of state to harass another board member of the convention to extort them, standing on the front porch and blocking them from entering their home. Fortunately, a third party was able to record the confrontation, getting Fox's face and accomplice on camera, as well as photos of the stolen car and a restraining order. These power moves would always occur a few days before the next big step in the divorce procedure. Fox did not appear for court, settled digitally, and did not sit in the same room for meditation. He tried to offer nothing and that he would take everything from me, but I trusted my support network. That offer quickly caved in the presence of lawyers, and he settled for almost all of my requests. I won the car, all my requested belongings, my share of the value of the home, and compensation for damages for stealing my property. He won the Nintendo Switch. Damages towards the convention are not a marital matter and will be a different legal procedure, without me being involved since we have personal history. While it is a general rule of thumb to avoid rebounding after a breakup, I would like to emphasize just how much space J&K gave me after I moved into my own apartment. They helped me furnish it, helped me move in and decorate it to be mine. They encouraged me to do the things I used to love doing as a child. They bought me a drawing tablet, told me to chase my dreams of becoming an artist. They polished my Twitch stream, made it look professional. And they did 100% of this with zero strings attached, solely because they wanted to see my dreams achieved and me living the best life that I could live, with or without them, which is still of course true to this day. They either drove down and spent time with me in Oklahoma, or flew me up to Canada to see them frequently. These people have been by my side without hesitation since the moment I confided in them back in July. They have loved me with more intent and sincerity than anyone I have ever known in my entire life. I feel that I can truly be myself around them, the real me. They saved my life, as I wasn't really living. They set me free to figure out who I really was, and when I began to discover the real me, That's when I made the decision to spend my life going forward by their sides for as long as they will have me, my best friends. As of speaking, Fox has been spending his time post-divorce role-playing with himself, training AI and uploading the results of his new Foxglove relationship development on social media, having burnt bridges with all our networked friends. Fox still refers to me by pet names like Hun to this day. I hope he can find happiness and find the Lily he is searching for, and that he can move on from harassing myself, the charity, and my friends. So while this document could be seen as a revelation in regards to the public falling out between these two, as not only did it elaborate on the crumbling relationship between the two, but it also caught us all up on the positions of everyone involved. As I said, it also doesn't really provide any form of receipts to accompany what's being said here, leaving their entire fallout finalized as a he said, she said for the more skeptical. Although I'll be honest, I do kinda believe Peacewolf here, at the very least when she detailed Foxglove's excitement for being a cuckold, as I'm assuming it was the same brand of excitement he showed for the upcoming humility he would face after her post. Saying things such as, if anyone is going to try to embarrass me, now is probably the time. Hello Kiwi Farms, I know you're watching and I hope you're all having a great day today, as well as tweeting about how wild the drama was despite being a crucial player in this drama, and comparing it to the New Guy meme from 2019. He does talk about making good humor out of a devastating situation, but something about it just feels off. Even after nearing the end of this, the only thing I can say for certain is that there's no point in trying to figure out who's on the right side in all this. The best person involved probably would be Peacewolf, but even then, her history of racist comments as well as betraying the image she painted of her majorly Christian audience doesn't paint her with the best impression to some out there. But I guess being a racist fake Christian is better than being a pregnancy-obsessed narcissist or the furry version of Onision and Kai. There's no making sense of this. There are no winners in divorce. This might strike some viewers as harsh, but I believe everyone involved in this story should stay safe out there. Saved it.
Funding for this program was made possible by